Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. Not sure where Vern and FPR, but hopefully they'll join us in the next segment or two.
I am truly your co-host this week.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. A co-host, one, not plural. And let's see here. We got at each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. And again, it's baseball trivia since we're just right after the All-Star game. So I thought that would be kind of good. So there's a few things, a few topics. I don't know if we'll get to all of these because I know that Russell's got some good stuff to talk about. But Governor Newsom's trying to block and for the audience who doesn't know, Governor Newsom is the governor of California. He's trying to block UCLA's move to the Big Ten. Aston Martin has received an investment from Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, part of a $777 million raise to help the car brand return to Formula One last year to alleviate some debt. That's a big matzo ball there, $700 million. The NFL expanding its international business. The league was overwhelmed by ticket demand for November 13th Bucks versus Seahawks game. We'll talk about how many people tried to access those tickets. NCAA nominates Leah Thomas for Women of the Year, an American skier who gave up and an American skier who gave up her U.S. citizenship for China. Wins the Breakout of the Year from the ESPYs. That's kind of interesting. Charles Barkley. At first, I thought he was going to play in the Live Tour and then be a broadcaster, but I guess he's just going to be a broadcaster for $60 million, apparently. I don't know if you heard that one, Russ. That's
horrible. That's just horrible.
It's crazy, is what it is. All right, those are various topics that I have, and I know that Russell wants to talk about a few things. So stay with us. You are listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Russell Jackman. All right, so Russell, let's start off with what you wanted to talk about first.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thanks to the Joe Morgan Memorial Golf Tournament. I know that those segments will be playing later, but yesterday they hosted us out, and I know the time shift and everything. When people listen to this, it'll be a few days after that. But we were treated so wonderfully over at the Roundtree golf course and country club. But it just makes you wish every day that you lived, you could just hang out at the golf club like that. Isn't that just a wonderful way of living when you're hanging out at the golf club?
Oh yeah, the weather was great. It started off cold, but then it got nice and warm later on, and to be around all the sports stars. We had Matt Cain and George Contos and Vida Blue and excuse me, Dave Stewart. Dana McLemore. It's funny, this year they had a lot more baseball players than football players.
Yeah. No, you're right. We didn't have a single basketball player.
We had a couple years ago. We had Rick Barry. And in fact, I think he was the only basketball player in the last few golf tournaments.
I think so.
It's pretty easy to see who he is because was he about 6'7"?
Yeah. Although I was surprised at how tall Matt Cain was. I did not realize he was as tall a drink of water as he turned out to be. But everybody was so nice to us. So again, I just wanted to thank Roundtree and the Joe Morgan.
We're Round Hill.
Round Hill,
yes. In Alamo, California. Yeah.
Yes, and also the Memorial Tournament for having us out there to do the coverage and the interviews.
And let's give a little shout out to Susan Casper, who is Dave Casper's wife, the ghost from for the Oakland Raiders. She puts us on, and an extra special thank you to Summit Bank, who is the main sponsor of the tournament. They're a kind of a boutique bank in Oakland, California. They treat us very well. Really appreciate it. Okay,
so let's give some credit where credit's due. Anyway, training camp opens up this weekend for a lot of teams, and by next week, most teams will be into solid training camp for the NFL, and really, that's for a lot of people when they sit up and take notice that sports season is afoot.
Yeah.
Most people are in a slumber after the NBA finals, and they sort of sleepwalk their way through the summer and Major League Baseball if their teams aren't doing so great, aka my San Francisco Giants. But then everyone, hope always springs eternal for football fans.
Well, everyone starts off at 0-0. They haven't lost any games yet.
And everyone sees the potential in their team. I mean, there are a few teams that I think just are immediately out of contention from the start. It would take a miracle for them to make something of themselves. I don't think much is going to happen out of Seattle this year. I don't think much is going to happen. I think the Colts might be in some disarray with changing out quarterbacks there. I don't know. It's just about a third of the league swapped quarterbacks, so you're going to wind up seeing.
Jacksonville just got rid of their coach.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Well, that was a disaster.
Yeah. And then Kyler Murray, apparently, so he signed some kind of $230 million contract or something. And apparently part of the contract is he has to study 4 hours a week.
Good. For that much, I mean, 4 hours a week.
Yeah, it's studying.
Oh my gosh, for that much money, I'd study the back of a cereal box 4 hours a week.
Yeah, actually, I should double check that to make sure that it's 4 hours a week and not 4 hours a day, because that's part of his contract. It's an independent study clause. He $230 million, making him the second highest player in the NFL by annual salary. And it's requiring, uninterrupted homework per week. And I think it's to study film, because he doesn't really care to study film too much, which, I don't know. It's one of those things where, proof is in the performance, right? It's like some people need to study for tests and some people don't. Maybe they're looking.
Well, but he regressed last year. I think everyone would agree he didn't have as good a year last year as he did in his first couple of years. I think that's I think the thing that weighs on him is that if you show that you're getting better without seeing films, then I think they have no problem with you learning on the fly. But when you're not making those steps forward,
it kind of reminds me of Colin Kaepernick, where when he came out into the league, I mean, he just was like a house on fire. But then defenses learn to adjust to him.
Look at Lamar Jackson. Another example.
Another good example.
They study you. I mean, it is really defenses get so smart in the NFL. They're probably smarter. The defenses in the NFL are probably the smartest sports entity that you'll ever encounter.
Well, if you think about it, they don't know what the offense is going to do, so they have to adjust quickly. The offense knows what they're going to do.
It's a lot of it's instinct, and a lot of it is looking at patterns and finding out what people are going to do before they do it, and knowing that it's coming, and not getting caught off guard. And it is very hard to do that. That's why the defensive coaches in the NFL often become head coaches, because they have such a great view of the field and predicting what the other side is going to do. And you obviously want a coach that can be able to pull that off as well. Actually, here's my grand solution for the 49ers, and it also solves a major problem for the NBA. Is I think the 49ers should trade Jimmy Garoppolo for Kevin Durant. That way Kevin Durant can come back to the Bay Area. He's off of the Nets. The Nets can have, a good-looking guy that they can market over in New York City. Garoppolo would have everyone's attention. And, I think Durant would be an interesting wide receiver for the 49ers. So what do you think?
That's pretty good. I like that one. And let me just finish this off before we go to break. So the NFL is expanding its international business. The league was overwhelmed by ticket demand for the November 13th Bucks versus Seahawks. More than 770,000 people tried to access tickets. The NFL is not just an obsession for the United States.
it's an obsession for the world. And I do think we're going to probably get to a point where world games are going to be a reality for the NFL, where, you know, playing in China, playing in Mexico, playing in England, playing in Germany and France is going to be a not, you know, it's going to be a regular thing for every season, teams to go over there. And because it's once a week, you can get away with that kind of travel, but it is very hard on the athlete.
Well, I'm guessing if they do something like that, they'll probably play in Germany one game and then stay over and play in France the next week, and then, you know, maybe like a 3
That, or maybe synchronize it with the bye. You know, maybe that's, you know, when you have the bye week.
That actually,
you know, then you,
that would actually be very smart.
so
Okay, so we've got here our first trivia question. I'm talking baseball here. What two American League franchises never changed their name throughout the entire 20th century?
oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that an interesting question? All right, email Edward at sportsecon.
American League franchise.
Yeah, what two American League franchises never changed their name throughout the entire 20th century? All right, that is our trivia question. Again, email Edward at sportsecon101.com. That question, when we come back, Russell and I will continue on. Don't touch that dial.
Sure.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. Not sure where FP and Vern are, but hopefully they'll join us next week. All right, first baseball trivia question. What two American League franchises never changed their name throughout the entire 20th century?
Well, I'm glad you at least limited it to the 20th century. I appreciate that right up front. Well, the Yankees?
No, they used to be the Highlanders.
In the 20th century?
Yeah, because, you know, 1905, something like that.
Oh, okay. All right. And then I was going to say the White Sox.
Yes, the Chicago White Sox was one of them. And what's the other one?
The 20th century. Well, technically the Seattle Mariners, because they were within the 20th
no, because
century.
there's, well, no, because this would have been this existed throughout the entire 20th century.
Well, they Seattle did for
no. So yeah, but Seattle wasn't around in 1940. So I'm saying
it was not.
No, throughout.
So older than 1940. I will say.
I'll give you a little hint. He was one of the most famous baseball players of all time. Played on the team. I believe he played.
Said Yankees, so that
no, can't be the Yankees.
I'll say Rangers. I'll throw that out. Rangers.
Sorry, I'm going to give you a big hint. Think Ty Cobb.
The Red Sox?
No. He played for the Detroit Tigers.
Detroit Tigers have never changed the name.
Never changed.
See, I would never have gotten that. Really? I thought that the Tigers were like the Stags or something like that a long time ago.
Wolverines or something. Yeah.
Wolverines. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So I thought that was within the 20th century. So I would have never guessed that. Well, I'm glad I got the White Sox. I'll hang my hat on that one.
All right, I got a little story here for you. So MLB agreed to a $185 million settlement in a class action suit filed in 2014, which alleged that the league violated the minimum wage laws in California, Arizona, and Florida, as well as overtime laws in California. I mean, California is always trying to grab from people. I mean, look at what they're doing down at the Oakland docks, where they're trying to make these independent truckers become employees. Why? So that they can steal more money through payroll taxes and workers' comp and anything else the California government can steal. Okay, so the settlement also prohibits MLB from preventing teams from paying minor leaguers during spring training, extended spring training, and instructional league play. They had previously blocked teams from paying players during those periods. The plaintiff class of roughly 23,000 members will receive only around $5,000 to $5,500 each. The players will divide 120 million, with the remainder going to attorney's fees and other costs. Nice, huh?
Well, yeah, it's a gig I'd like to be a part of, but you know, this is all sort of like a for it's sort of an idea whose time is coming with the removal of the antitrust exemption
Yeah,
for Major League Baseball.
which would
And
be
I
very
think
interesting.
baseball's,
Yeah. How do you think that's going to play out?
I think they're going to lose it. They never really should have had it in the first place.
True.
And baseball has leaned on it and been so, they've abused it so much that there's absolutely no justification for baseball to have an antitrust policy, to have exemptions from the antitrust policies. There just isn't.
Well, that's yeah. No, you're right. I mean, there's no reason specifically to allow them and not have other sports have it.
Sure, or that they should have it at all. It was all
Exactly.
part of a corrupt commissioner's, you know, backroom deal, and you know, handshakes and cigars all
Yeah.
around, you know. But it doesn't do the American people any good to have baseball have an antitrust exemption. It's not a utility. It's not otherwise,
Yeah.
you know, mandated by the government for any other sport. And all the other sports have managed to survive without an antitrust exemption. So
True. Yeah. I mean, that's you're right. I think, you know, I mean, as I understand it, besides the, you know, the back room, hey, I want to keep my players on my team type of thing. Excuse me. I think the idea was there in the early or let's say the late 1800s, early 1900s. What was going on was players were just jumping from one team to another every year because they didn't have these long-term contracts, and so
right.
and they had the federal league and they had all these different leagues going on. So
The
it
world
was
has
just
changed a little bit since
yeah,
1900.
well, and that's a good point. That it's really like, I mean, it's completely changed. You know, baseball teams are very expensive now to start. I don't know how expensive it was back then, but relatively speaking.
Well, remember we were talking yesterday about with Dave Stewart.
Yeah.
And they were talking about trying to get a team together in Nashville.
Oh yeah.
And just the entry fee, just to get started at all, and to pay the commissioner his, you know, for his ivory coated back scratchers,
Yeah.
was going to be $2 billion.
And where's that money going to
$2
go? I
billion.
mean, it's like that can't be like the fee. That's got to be like what it takes to start a team, and you know, all the
No, I thought he said that was the startup fee that Major League Baseball wants, so that all the teams can, you know, gorge themselves on the $2 billion that a new team would bring. And, you know, big contracts all around, and you know, everybody just wants to make more money with an opportunity like that. So
Yeah.
so if Nashville's ever going to get an expansion team, it's going to probably just off the top, without ever building an arena, without ever signing a single player, is going to be $2 billion.
Well, they would have to, because of the weather in Nashville, they'd have to have a enclosed stadium, I would think.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the Saudis are thinking about it.
Yeah. Now, are the Saudis? Do they have a big interest in baseball?
They have a big interest in just screwing with the American people. I
Oh.
really do think that there's nothing positive that we ever get out of Saudi Arabia, and considering that
wait a minute,
country
though.
was,
One of my topics that I had started off the show with was Aston Martin has received an investment from Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, part of a $777.5 million raise to help the car brand that returned to Formula One last year to alleviate debt. I guess
well,
when
that's very,
Aston Martin said, "Hey, we're in debt. We need
it's
cash."
all got a sinister motive behind it. It's great, you know, it's great to accept money from the devil today, but the devil will have its due,
Yeah.
and they will find a way to use all these investments to manipulate a lot of these brands and a lot of these products and a lot of these tournaments and all this stuff. And I don't trust them one bit. Why should we? You know, they
I
never.
wonder what happens if suddenly uh, people, it's society, let's say, gets so fed up that they just break the contracts. I think about like what China is doing, buying up a lot of farmland uh, in the Midwest, like we're South or no, South Dakota, I think, or somewhere in the Dakotas, where they also are like a little bit too close to, about 20 miles close to an air base that we have. And the thing is, if China controls, let's say, too much of our food with the farmland and all that, what would happen if the federal government, the United States federal government, just says, you know what, we're going to eminent domain this thing because we just don't like China anymore. I think it was in Mexico that uh, you'd have to kind of, if you were an American owning property in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, and they may have changed this law, it was really kind of dicey because the Mexican government could just kind of one day say, you know what, you don't own this anymore, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's yeah, and I would say that China would not likely attack something that they own most of, so they're not going to probably attack us anytime soon. But
oh, that's
but
an interesting
it
point.
is. Yeah, it's well, the Saudis. It's a different story. They already attacked us in 9/11, and we didn't lift a finger to do anything about it. So that's when you want to look at which country has done more to damage the United States, I think you can look at Saudi Arabia's record
Yeah, but you know what?
versus
You know how we're getting back at them? We're letting them have Charles Barkley because he's going to join them
exactly.
as a
That's a
broadcaster.
good. Yeah, that's good punishment. Letting them have to suffer through his commentary. That is torture that I wouldn't wish on even
Which
my
is
worst
kind of
enemy.
funny because I'm thinking, why Charles Barkley? I mean, do they love basketball that much?
Because he's a clown. He's a clown, and he brings some ratings because of the sheer outrageousness of it. But it also shows you what I think Saudis think about the American people as a whole. That just that they want to turn golf into more of a spectacle than they want to turn it into a sport. And that's because they say Americans care about spectacle more than they care about sport
Interesting.
and the actual
Very interesting.
athletic endeavor. And something I didn't get to bring up yesterday, but I'll bring it up now because I heard it on another talk show, was the point that if you in the Live Tour, if you are awarding these guys $900 million before they even hit the ball like
Yeah.
1 inch in any direction, well, what's their real incentive to actually want to win? They've already got more money now than they would have if they won four
Sure, but
PGA tours in a
they still
row.
get it. Hey, Russell, let's continue this on. We have another trivia
All
question.
right.
The
Okay.
1950s was an amazing decade for the Yankees, finding 6 World Series appearances. The National League franchise found 5. Which National League team are we talking about? Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. Okay, our second trivia question. The 1950s was an amazing decade with the Yankees finding 6 World Series appearances. Well, now, which National League franchise found 5 of them?
Was it the Dodgers?
Yes, very good. I figured I kind of throw
Oh,
you a softball question there about baseball.
I don't like thinking about the Dodgers and
I
them winning
know. That's
after
why I
the
had to kind of throw that
weekend the
one in there.
Giants had.
All right, so
Thank you.
moving on here. Okay, so what do you think about the NCAA nominating Leah
Well,
Thompson?
wait, I want to finish off my
Oh, I'm
thought on
sorry.
the Live.
You're Saudi Arabia thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and that is if they're giving $900 million to guys, before you even bat the ball 1 inch,
Yeah,
there's maybe the fat and happy concept may really take the competitiveness out of this game because there's no incentive to actually win because you're already getting paid so much.
yeah, but how much does the winner get?
He's not going to get $900
No,
off
no,
the
no.
top.
I know. So you get 9. Well, not everybody's going to make 900 to begin with, but so let's say you make 900 and now you're fat, dumb, and happy for the rest of your life. Okay.
Yeah, you're getting
Now,
paid almost $1 billion.
I
How
get it.
can someone?
Yeah, but you
How
got to
can
pay
someone?
taxes on that though, and so I don't know if I want that if I have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, so you're only going to wind up with 750 million.
No, less than
It,
that. But
okay, 500 million. If you have $500 million for one event, it's not even like you got to play out an 8-year contract or something like that.
Well, wait a minute, wait. They don't, hold on. They don't get 900 million. Whoever gets the 900 million, that's not per event, is it?
I have no idea.
No, I think it's probably to join. Like, we'll pay,
I see.
right? And then now after that, the winner gets, I don't know, 5 million, 10 million, whatever it is. But the interesting thing is, when I guess, and again, I'm not an athlete at that level, but you got to think that, this isn't just an all-star game type of thing where nobody cares. These guys are competitive against each other,
I don't know. You throw that much money at a guy, and they can easily. You've even heard, as much as I love Draymond Green, when Draymond Green says, "Hey, I'm getting fined $20,000, and it doesn't mean anything to me." That sort of attitude could start pervading the Live Tour, where if you pay guys so much up front that there's just why so I win, great. So I lose. Well, I still walk away with $900 million.
Well, okay. So I don't know. I guess it's more. I don't think the Draymond Green thing is really the same because he's not competing against specifically anybody else and losing 20,000. He gets fined because of his antics. Okay. Whereas with Rory McIlroy going against Bruce Koepka, then and Tiger Woods, et cetera, and Phil Mickelson. I mean, there's competitiveness between the guys, even if they played for nothing.
I think once you've already won by getting that kind of money thrown at you, the edge can be taken off.
Oh, okay. That I do agree. I do agree with that. Because it kind of reminds me also, it's like when these baseball players get these huge contracts, and
yep,
the next year it's like, well, they didn't have such a good season. Well, yeah, they weren't as hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I do agree with that.
That's my point.
Okay.
That's my point about the Live Tour.
Okay, let's move on here. So the NCAA nominates Leah Thomas, and for everyone who remembers, Leah Thomas was the man who I guess is going through transgender surgery or something, but for Woman of the Year, a swimmer, and he has been just beating all the other women, like he's shattering all the records. So anyway, they nominate, the NCAA nominates Leah Thomas for Woman of the Year. So let's start off with that. And even
do we have to?
What's that?
Do we have to? I don't really like talking about these topics.
Well, the thing is, I guess, because it's sports, and the thing is, okay, Martina Navratilova, who is a lesbian, even she said, "Are you kidding me? They couldn't even find another woman who would qualify," and I think she's 100% right.
Well, I know this is gonna bum you out, but I'm gonna take a no comment on it, and okay. It's not a subject that I've ever really liked to talk about in
fair
sports.
Enough, but I think they should have chosen a biological woman. There's got to be some woman in sports who is deserving of it. Okay, and then the American skier who gave up her U.S. citizenship so that she could ski for China. First of all, if I understand it correctly, she's actually not moving to China. She's just giving up her citizenship, and she's competing, I guess, in the U.S. and wherever else for China. She is of Chinese descent. I don't think both parents are Chinese, though. I think just her mother is. And she wins Breakout of the Year from the ESPYs. Wow. Someone who is, I don't want to call her a traitor because that's not fair, but someone who's giving up her U.S. citizenship for China wins Breakout of the Year from the ESPYs.
I'm even more interested that you care about the ESPYs.
I don't, but I just think it's one of those weird things where it's like, again, I don't know. It's like the whole world is going woke. It's like it's all shock value, None
of that bothers me. I mean, United States has how many citizens in it? Like
300 million.
Yeah, 300 million citizens. So one of them decides to leave. It's going to affect you that much?
Well, no. I mean, no. Her doing it doesn't affect me personally. Part of this is just first of all, her getting an award for Breakout of the Year.
Yeah, but it's an ESPY. I mean, my God, you can.
but it's
I
not.
mean, you could give yourself an SB and no one would notice.
Listen, this isn't it's the ESPYS. It's not the ACLU.
No, no, it's not.
Right. So
it's a phony award that means very little to almost anyone else in the world other than yourself for
I
bringing
guess
it
really,
up.
well, that's true. I guess what I'm more thinking of is from a cultural breakdown. You know, to me, it's just a breakdown of society when that kind of stuff is.
Why?
Because
Why? Someone decides to leave their citizenship and take the citizenship of another country. The United States can withstand something like that.
That bothers me only a little bit, but not really, because but the thing is, if she's going to do that, why wouldn't she just move to China? She's given up.
Hell, if Trump had won in 2020, I probably would have moved to Canada.
That I don't understand. I mean, you're telling me that your life has gotten better over the last year.
Oh yeah, a lot better without Trump. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I don't have a dictator that wants to run my life. And the things that have been negative have been a result of the policies and the things that Trump put in place while he was president. But January 6th.
There, you and I are going to totally disagree, my friend. In fact, you know what we should do is have a separate podcast where
I could do it.
Yeah, I mean, you and I would love to do it. In fact, it's so funny because Bruce McGowan and I were talking about doing something like that. For those who don't know, Bruce is kind of well known here in the San Francisco Bay Area for years doing sports, and he definitely is left of center. And
me and Bruce would plow you under the soil, though.
I think I could hold my own. but that's
January 6th proved to me that we were living under a dictator and a person that wanted to be a monarch.
January 6th proves to me that we're living under worse today than we were then. You know, in fact, let me ask you, Mr. Jackman, who's an attorney, at what kind of, quote, trial, because we'll call it a trial, right? The committee, it's kind of like a trial. How come we don't hear the other side?
We heard the other side. We heard the other side for
defense. We haven't heard any defense. And everyone, even Jeffrey
Trump has had a long time to come forward and explain himself.
Really? You think they're going to even let him?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he has. But he's the one that's dodging all the subpoenas. He's the one that's not. He's refusing to testify. Okay, he's the one that's obfuscating the judicial process and delaying everything and trying to find some way to weasel out of it, like he's weaseled out of every court process that he's ever been involved in his entire life.
How about, instead of hearing about all this hearsay, how about talking to the 2 FBI agents who said, no, nobody's ever tried to grab the steering wheel. Anyway, we're kind of getting off on a little tangent, but we seriously should start a separate podcast where
I'm for it. But be aware that the gloves will come off. So.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, you know what? And Bruce and I talked about this too, is that we can respect each other and treat each other in a cordial environment. Totally disagree, but because I can see where you're coming from, and hopefully you can see where I'm coming from. But we don't get so entrenched that it's like, you call me the devil and I call you the devil. You know what I mean?
Trump really, and everything that I heard about on January 6th, there's very little positive stuff that I could ever hear about Trump that would make me believe it.
Is that all you're doing, is just listening to like the January 6th committee hearings?
Well, I watched them live, and there you go. There was plenty that happened on January 6th that I saw with my own eyes that told me what was going on.
Well, and I'd be curious to know. I'd be curious to know about this guy Ray Epps and about the little cop who kept ushering people in. And when you look at the footage where people are just kind of meandering, I wonder how many Antifa type people or leftists purposely went there to cause
zero.
No, I don't.
How many of them were wearing Camp Auschwitz sweaters? At least one of them.
Yeah,
and those are my enemies. Those are people that are my enemies. Those are people that are my enemies. If you can wear a Camp Auschwitz sweater and think that that's funny,
no,
then
it's not.
you're an enemy.
No, it's absolutely not funny. In fact, it reminds me when Prince Harry was a teenager, he thought it was
he wore that Hitler outfit, which wasn't all that
Nazi
funny
uniform for Halloween. I thought that was in very, very poor taste.
Well, but these were people that were seriously believing in it, and that's what they believe, even when they're not dressed up in a Halloween costume.
No, but think about it for a minute.
Think
about it for a minute. If you're Antifa, okay, or if you're a leftist, wouldn't you?
I don't believe any of that. I don't believe
really?
any of that.
I mean, I think
there's no proof of it. There's no proof of it. It's just empty allegations. What I do know is that the people that did support Trump were putting together a gallows to hang Mike Pence. You know that. That was proven.
Yes, I do.
That.
But I'm not supporting that either. But
they were going to hang the vice president of the United States, and Trump wasn't going to do a thing to stop it.
I do think some of that is conjecture with regard to, let's hang them. But, well, were they really going to do it?
We saw gallows being put together. That, to me, is in a court of law, when you put together something like that, that is showing that you have a plan to commit murder. And that is not something to be taken lightly. And it's not something to be, and the fact that Trump knew it was going on and didn't tell those people to
podcast on this, because you and I have a lot to talk about. All right, hey, let's
absolutely
trivia question on baseball here. This pathetic National League team finished in last place or next to last place 8 times in the 1920s. Now this baseball team is still around. Okay. So this National League team finished in last place or next to last place 8 times in the 1920s. That's a pretty bad record. All right. Which team are we talking about? Email Edward at sportsecon101.com and stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be back with some closing comments. Don't ta-ta-ta. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. And boy, it's been fire and sparks today. Okay, this pathetic National League team finished in last place or next to last place 8 times in the 1920s. Any idea which?
Sounds like you're talking about. Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about the Cubs.
No, that actually would have been a good guess because they were really good in like 1906, 07, 08. No, it's actually the Philadelphia Phillies. They were.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know they were that bad.
I couldn't name anybody.
All right.
That's a pretty bad. That's a big matzo ball there. All right. So we, as you were mentioning off the air, it's a good thing that Vern and FP weren't here, or else this could have gone really ballistic.
Yes, I have to say that for a politics only show one of these days, a very special one. Yeah, you'll have to do it for that. So, what are your dad jokes for this week?
Okay. So if you're ready, here we go. And I'm sorry that Vern's not here. He would have loved this. Okay. Why do record stores not allow returns? You ready?
I don't know.
Because all sales are vinyl.
Vinyl. Well, except the tapes.
Okay. And what do you call a dog that sings bass?
The CDs.
What do you call a dog that sings bass?
A subwoofer.
A subwoofer. Bingo. Good job. All right. There we go. All right. So now I wonder next week, are we going to have more fire and sparks? Because we'll definitely have to have a separate podcast where we speak our minds on what happened. Do you listen to CNN a lot?
No. I usually am a Google News person.
You're a what news person?
Google News. I just
Google News. Okay. And yes. That's just probably just as left. Okay. Tune in next week.
Just as left.
I like Newsmax personally. Okay, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.